In a universe full of ideas, we draw lightness from the dark to a place where opposites attract. Right meets left, positive touches negative, sparking an explosion of truth. Because politics makes strange bedfellows.
The MSM is manipulating the QAnon stuff to go after legitimate people who really do believe in real conspiracies. Okay, that's
exactly
what they're trying to do.
Like JFK, like RFK.
Right, exactly. Yeah, right.
I mean, the Kennedy assassination people, you guys know better than anyone how pernicious and dangerous this movement is. And right here on Maverick News, I've spent the better part of the last year. I'm constantly trying to educate our audience. Many of them believe in QAnon. They believe this stuff. And I've tried my best to educate them and tell them that, no, JFK Jr. is really dead. His wife and Lauren Bissett are really dead. They really died in a plane crash. I knew JFK Jr. JFK Jr. was a personal friend of mine. I can confirm, okay, from firsthand experience, he is truly quite dead.
Tell that to the person who sent me a video 2 days ago that shows that JFK Jr. is coming back to be president.
Oh, sure.
Two days ago.
It's going to be Donald Trump's running mate, right? Again.
I did research for a screenplay I was writing in 2005. So we're talking how many years ago? It's like almost 20 years ago. Yeah. And the video technology to simulate real people, to put words in their mouth and not have it look fake, it was so sophisticated. In 2005, they could literally take a famous person, have them speak a different language and tell jokes in that language with the video manipulation.
The deep fake.
So first of all, in the video of JFK Jr., has he aged? Or is he still the young, handsome dude he was when he died? You know?
Frozen in time.
60s, right? You know? It's like, come on. People are just not critical thinkers when it comes to this stuff.
Oh, but the people who embrace this stuff think they are the critical thinkers.
Right, and we're the dummies because we just don't know the truth. You don't know the truth.
Yeah. Like I said, I run into this all the time because, you know, people coming up to me with their crazy conspiracy theory. It's like, I work really hard to prove the conspiracies I talk about.
Yeah.
I actually research. I don't sit around and come up with cool ideas or listen to some anonymous person on the internet or believe some anonymous email that a friend forwarded. I mean, this does not rise to the standard of evidence.
We go to primary source documents. You go to the files at the LAPD. And that brings me back to our topic, which is this current assassination attempt on Kennedy and the real stuff, not the Q stuff, but the real information that we have. And something I found very interesting about the case, Lisa, and I wanted to ask you about this. When I spoke to LAPD, when I talked to their public information officer today, I said, so who's handling the investigation? They said that, you know, FBI was there at the scene yesterday. Apparently they for whatever reason, they had some FBI people at this event who offered to assist the LAPD, but the LAPD says that they don't want the FBI's help, that it's not a federal crime, and that they will handle the investigation themselves. And I knew you would go off when you heard that because you've been researching the LAPD's work on the RFK Sr. case now for 30 years, and you know how many secrets they held and how poorly and shoddily and corrupt that investigation really was. So I hope they do a better job this time, Lisa.
The low-level FBI guys do a fantastic job. And I know Jim will back me up on that. At the lowest level, we got tons of great information on the Kennedy assassination. Now, the higher up the chain it goes, the bigger the lies. But at the ground level, you know, the witness reports and stuff were pretty darn good. And the same in the in the RFK assassination. In fact, I had the LAPD's narration or rather transcript of Sirhan being held for 4 hours overnight. It was all transcribed. the FBI also transcribed it from the same tape. Their version had better detail. The LAP just glossed over certain things. So if I had to choose which agency, and here's the thing, if there's nothing to cover up, they would share and there would be no jurisdictional issues. So the fact that they don't want to share is automatically a red flag that possibly they feel the need to find out more and cover it up. If this guy is somehow tied, who called him and said he had a job? Maybe he really thought he did have a job.
Exactly.
With security. It's like we don't know the facts of the case. This may not be a crazy guy lying to his brother. This may be a guy taking advantage of who everybody knew would be easy to discredit because he was obviously a Q supporter.
And here's what I don't understand is why so far he's only been charged with gun charges, but there's been no federal charge yet. Now, of course, impersonating a federal marshal is a crime.
Right. I thought that was one of the reasons.
It's a crime, but he has not been charged with it yet. Now, of course, he has not been to court. Really? Yeah, really. They've only got him on a gun charge right now. Bail is at $35,000. He's still in custody, but it's the weekend. Let's remember that there's probably no court on the weekend. It'll probably be Monday before he sees a judge. They're not going to let him out this weekend, I don't think. And I would think that, the federal prosecutors and in fact the FBI should probably be involved in the investigation to see if he really was, even if it's a fake badge, if you're impersonating a Fed, that's a felony, a very serious federal felony. And he should be charged with that. And I don't understand.
And I think
why
that might be why the FBI wanted in on the investigation.
Exactly.
For all we know, he has a history of this. For all we know, we just don't know.
Well, you know how widespread the problem here is with this gigantic, sophisticated psyop. Have you read the comments on the arrest video?
No.
Probably 3/4 of the people, or at least half, don't believe that it's real.
Oh God.
Yep.
Yeah. And they don't believe it really happened at all?
They think that it's staged. A variety of comments, but it didn't happen, or this guy's a wide range of conspiracy theory.
Oh my God!
That's not even. It's all staged. He's a Fed. On and on and on.
Yeah, I was going to say I found that with kind of the hardcore right. Doesn't ever want to believe they've done anything bad. So it's always a Fed impersonating them
every time
one of their own does something bad.
See, the problem I have is, what I talked about earlier. If you're trying to apply for a job with the security services, why would you arrive with that kind of getup on? Okay.
I know it.
In Los Angeles, California?
It wasn't applying.
Why would you do that?
You think he was an actor on a movie set dressed up like a cop on a, like he's making a movie. He's an extra or something. That was a goofy costume and not very convincing.
And then what was that? What was that decal he had on his sweatshirt? What did that say?
That was emergency medical technician because he was an EMT.
Okay, that's what it is. Oh, that's what he used to be,
right? He hasn't been. Right, but he hasn't been since 2017. And according to his brother, he, in trying to rescue somebody, severely injured his own self, had like 5 spinal, cracks, needed very expensive surgery, that might have led to his financial troubles. And like I said, at that point, he's really easy pickings for anybody who wants to manipulate somebody who's a little desperate.
Mm-hmm. That's usually how they get him.
Yep.
That's how they bring him in.
So if you want to go down that path, we just can't
his TikTok, he had his handle on TikTok is kind of interesting. It's Stoic Medic 717. That's STOIC MEDIC 717. If you want to go check out that channel, look at the weird comments. You'll notice it's the only video there is, and of course, his handle in itself has that gematria shit going on that only Q people understand. So, while being QAnon is certainly not a crime, it's obvious to me as I studied too much of this stuff for my own good that he's a QAnon person. and they all talk in gematria. There's this guy.
I wanted to talk about gematria. Yeah.
Well, there's this guy who goes by the handle of -48. Have you heard of him?
No, I haven't.
His name is Jim Protzman, and he's a big leader in the QAnon movement. He's the guy who organized that big group of Q people to go to Dallas last November, and they camped out. They camped out in Dealey Plaza for like 3 months every single day, and they stayed at the Hyatt Regency downtown, the big skyscraper that looks like a giant microphone in downtown Dallas, right by Dealey Plaza. And they would go down to the plaza every day, and there was like about 100 of them, and for 3 months, guys. And they would chant. They would sit in Dealey Plaza and they would chant. And
it takes a lot of money.
And they were like, and it takes a lot of money to do that. That's right. These people have money. And so they would take their money and people would donate to them on the internet. People would send in donations. A lot of the members of the JFK QAnon cult who funded this trip, they were staying in the penthouse suite, the top floor, and that's like at least a $600 a night hotel. The leader, Jim Protzman, was bilking his followers out of this money. But the reason I bring it up is Protzman is the guy who teaches his flock, and he has quite a large flock, that JFK Jr. is not dead, that President Kennedy did not die in Dallas, that he's still alive at age 105, 106, whatever he be now, and that he's going to come back, and they're all like, going to come around Donald Trump. And then get this, there's a new twist, guys. Now that RFK Jr. is in the race, I don't know if you've heard the latest QAnon conspiracy theory, but it's that RFK Jr. is not really RFK Jr. He's actually JFK Jr. wearing an RFK Jr. mask, and he took RFK's identity, and so then he's going to, bear with me, I'm almost
make the crazy stop.
Stop me if you've heard this, but he's going to drop out of the Democratic primary, and then he's going to rip off his mask, reveal himself as JFK Jr., who really didn't die in that plane crash back in 1999. And he's going to run as Donald Trump's running mate in 2024. And then the Q prophecy will be fulfilled. It's the craziest thing
Lori,
I've ever heard.
This does not sound
God.
Again.
They really
this
believe
is
it.
Not just crazy. This is not just crazy. This is
I'm getting a headache.
Intelligence operative driven.
It's
mind
programming,
control.
isn't it,
That's
Lisa?
mind control. It is. And there's big money behind it, because that group, I'm sorry, even if they're raising, money from their, their followers who aren't themselves that rich, there's just no way you can stay at the Hyatt for 3 months without like federal funding behind you. Seriously. I don't buy that for a second. By the way, I noticed he died on June 30th, Michael Protzman. So
he did?
He's no longer the leader of this. Yep, at least
you're kidding me. I did not know that.
Right now. Yep, in a motorcycle accident, suffering multiple blunt force injuries, dirt bike accident. Driving a dirt bike at a motocross track. Yeah, when he died. Yeah.
Where was this?
Or did he? In the week since his passing, the QAnon members have refused to accept his death. They claimed the whole tragedy was a hoax. Well, yeah, the intelligence operative, his job was done. He was there to help discredit the Kennedy researchers by bringing in a bunch of crazies, bringing the crazy element. I was there one year when we were on the plaza. Jim, you might remember this. There was like a woman or a guy with a parrot, and I mean, it was just like making it a 3-ring circus. And I saw a news crew go up to film them. I'm like, you got 400 like real researchers here, and you're going to film the crazy parrot guy.
Right.
And she said, "Don't tell me how to do the news." And I said, "Don't call it news," because it wasn't. This was not. It was the whole point of the report was to make all the legitimate researchers look like crazy conspiracy theorists. And honestly, I really think that's what the Q movement is all about. It's to discredit the notion of conspiracy theorizing. And this happened under Obama. Remember? What is his name? Adrian Vermeule, and he had a partner. The other guy. They co-wrote a paper, How to Combat Conspiracy Theorists, and it's like cognitive infiltration. And they're like, go to the groups.
Right, that's what they called it.
Cognitive
and
infiltration.
and what's hilarious is the whole point of the paper is like to discredit the notion of conspiracy theories, and yet they're proposing an actual conspiracy of cognitive infiltration.
And that's and Lisa, that's Samantha Power's husband.
Get out.
Oh no.
Yeah, it's Samantha Power's husband. Okay, one of those two guys, I don't know which
Cass
one.
Sunstein. Yeah, Cass Sunstein.
So what is it that they propose, or what do they suggest you do, or should be done as part of that process?
They're saying, interestingly enough, they say in general, true conspiracies should not be intermined. And so, of course, then my question is, except for which ones? Like the assassination, for example. But no, they literally said they should send people into news groups, put people on social media, go to where people are discussing conspiracy theories and try to, bring them out of that conspiracy theory. And I think what they found is that probably didn't work. So now they've taken the opposite turn, make the conspiracy bigger and crazier.
That's right.
And because
that's what they're doing.
The truth wasn't working. So now they're going to suck them so dark and deep that nothing will make sense to anybody.
Remember, Lori, we had that discussion, and I said, how do you get oil off an engine? You pour more oil on it. That's what they do.
That's exactly what's going on.
That's
the
wheels. That's exactly what they're doing. Yeah. They don't try to save the people. They make it worse. They add to it. They build it more, and then use it.
The news people to stay even further, especially when you have credible things like Jim DiEugenio's Oliver Stone project on the JFK assassination, JFK Revisited. When you dump all this JFK Jr. stuff is alive and you run those stories side by side, it's easy for people to say, well, I don't think I'll go see that Stone conspiracy theory film, even though, as Jim will tell you, a lot of people did.
Good point.
By the way, that's exactly what Steve Gallon did. Okay. He actually wrote a column for the Washington Post. Lori knows who this guy is.
He's a professor right here at the University of Oklahoma, my alma mater.
He tried to compare the JFK stuff with QAnon. And this is in the Washington Post loves this stuff. Okay. And so they went ahead and printed that column. Now, you want to hear something else about Gallon? When he decided to bring a debate on TV, which I saw, you can see it on YouTube.
Is that the History Channel debate about LBJ?
No. This is about the Kennedy assassination. He said, he brought on Gus Russo and David Lifton. Those are the two people that he brought on. Okay. And
rigging the game. Oh my God.
And I said, Steve, now come on. You really think we're this dumb? Okay.
Unreal.
I mean, who gives you a choice
between Gus Russo
and David Lifton?
Wow. David Lifton, by the way, was a huge friend of James Phelan, who was one of the journalists leading the charge against Garrison. And Phelan was so close with Robert Mayhew that he was copying Garrison's files in Las Vegas at Robert Mayhew's offices.
At his office, right.
It's like Mayhew is in the loop of both cases, the JFK and the RFK assassination.
There's overlap there.
Super interesting. Yeah.
There's so many connections to Los Angeles in both the JFK and the RFK cases, and something I wanted to address tonight while I have both of you here is, there were, and we've been talking about it a lot since the news broke of this potential attempt on RFK Jr. last night, was, we were talking about guys like Thomas Arthur Valley and some of the other dry runs or assassination plots that were foiled before Dallas in November. There was the Chicago plot, there were the plots in Florida, and there was also a plot in Los Angeles. And I was wondering if Jim or Lisa, if either one of you would like to explain that a little bit, the dry runs.
The one in Los Angeles, that was investigated by Richard Case Nagel.
Yes.
Okay, when he was trying to track down the real assassination that he knew was happening, he discovered this one in LA. that was supposed to take place, I believe, on the night PT
Long
109 PT 109
Movie
was going
premiere.
to premiere at
PT
this
109.
movie theater.
Wasn't it
And
the
the
theater
guy-
on Wilshire? I think it was a theater on Wilshire.
Probably.
guy-
Well, to be
the
fair,
guy-
everything's on Wilshire.
The guy who they were
Right.
going to frame, okay, for that one, just happened to be a member of the Fair Play for Cuba Committee. You know, it's
You
almost
sure?
like you
Yeah.
have to be a member of this committee if we're going to consider you a suspect. Okay.
Well,
Right.
they were trying to.
That
do
means you had to be a
it
communist. Of course, we're going to blame a
Right.
communist for it.
Right. Just like we suspect this guy was set up in part to frame Q. You know, Oswald was set up in part to frame Castro supporters and to blame them for the assassination and make supporting Castro so distasteful, or supporting Russia, you know, so distasteful because they killed the president.
Right.
So this is a standard template that we're seeing. It's hard to ignore that.
Yes,
By the
and
way,
when
his
he
name
mentioned
was,
Donald
his
Trump
name was
by
Vaughn
name,
Marlowe.
Von
The guy, if
Marlowe.
anybody's
Marlowe,
listening and wants to look it up, his name was Vaughn. We're not making this stuff up. It's true. His
Yeah.
name was Vaun Marlowe.
I think he lived in Long Beach. There's some Long Beach connection to that. I don't remember the details.
Well, it's
but
all
yeah.
about those planting of psychological seeds. And I'm sure you guys noticed in this strange TikTok video that Mr. Adrian made, you know, that he plants not only his name, spells it for you, all three names. He wants you to know his middle name too.
Right,
He
I
gives you
know.
his full name. He tells you to look it up in gematria, and he drops the name of Donald Trump as the real president of the United States. Now, to me, that just smells like a setup. That
Yeah,
makes
and
all my
gematria
spidey
just
senses
explain-
tingle. That they're trying
Yeah,
to
just
set
to
up
explain-
the MAGA
Yeah.
people or Trump and somehow blame them for this, which politically makes no sense, because I'm down here in Oklahoma, flyover country. I know a lot of Trump supporters, and guess what? They all love Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Republicans think he's great. They like a lot of what he says. They might not agree with everything, but I just cannot see any Republican or MAGA person wanting to ever hurt Robert F. Kennedy Jr. I fear that whatever violence may come his way is going to come from the left, because there are some
Well,
really fanatic leftists.
this is something I
hate him.
wanted to actually talk about, because, and I think everybody here is aware of this, there has been a massive, and I mean massive, effort to marginalize Bobby Kennedy Jr.
And
by the
smear him,
MSM and the establishment,
defame
and
him.
most lately the DNC. The DNC is worse on this case than they were with Bernie Sanders.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And that's saying something.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
No
I
joke.
mean, if there was going to be something, I would have expected to be from the extreme left. Okay. That's what I would expect it from, because everybody's
Me
had
too.
this drummed into them, you know.
That's
Yeah,
why you
it-
can't assume that he was there to do harm. Just
Right,
because he
well,
showed up,
exactly right. You're
We don't
exactly
know what his
He
intent
might have
is.
just been crazy.
Either way,
Yeah.
if it were an intelligence operation, whether he was witting or unwitting, whether he was manipulated or a volunteer, either way, it's clear the point was to discredit Q and Trump, and to threaten, you know,
And
Kennedy's
scare
life.
the hell out of everybody on
Yeah.
Kennedy's team.
In his
If
mind,
the-
he might have been there to protect RFK Jr. We don't know.
Exactly.
We don't know.
This has been a Maverick Multimedia production.